Was Bill Laimbeer really the dirtiest player in NBA history, or was he simply smarter than everyone else? Fans called him the Prince of Darkness, the Axe Murderer, even the Darth Vader of the NBA. Opponents loathed him, referees dreaded officiating him, and fans booed him louder than anyone else in his era. But here's the twist. Behind the elbows, the flops, and the endless trash talk, Laimbeer wasn't just a dirty player. He was a four-time All-Star, one of the best rebounders of the 1980s, and a pioneer of the modern stretch big. And maybe, just maybe, his reputation as the NBA's ultimate villain was exactly what made him great. Bill Laimbeer wasn't supposed to become the face of the roughest, toughest team in basketball. He was born in 1957 in Boston, but he didn't grow up struggling like most NBA players. His father, Bill Laimbeer Sr., was the president of a massive glass manufacturing company. That meant young Bill grew up in wealth, living in the wealthiest suburbs of Chicago and Los Angeles. He once joked that when he entered the NBA, he was probably the only rookie making less money than his dad. That privileged background shaped him. He was always confident, sometimes arrogant, and convinced that he could succeed at whatever he wanted. But success didn't come easily at first. At Notre Dame, Laimbeer flunked out his freshman year. Too much partying, not enough discipline. He was forced to enroll at a technical college for a year just to work his way back into eligibility. By the time he returned to Notre Dame, he was behind, and his stats weren't eye-catching, only 7 points and 6 rebounds per game as an upperclassman. So when the 1979 NBA draft rolled around, nobody was lining up for him. The Cleveland Cavaliers selected him in the third round, 65th overall. Low expectations, low risk. And even then, Cleveland wasn't convinced they wanted him. Instead, Laimbeer packed his bags and went to Italy. There, away from the NBA spotlight, he thrived, averaging 21 points and 12 rebounds for Brescia. That season overseas gave him the confidence he lacked at Notre Dame. When he returned to the NBA at age 23, he was tougher, hungrier, and ready to fight for his career. In his rookie year with the Cavaliers, Laimbeer actually played well, 10 points and 8 rebounds a night. But what really stood out wasn't his skill. It was how hard he played. He fouled constantly, argued relentlessly, and never backed down. Even in meaningless games, he was battling for every rebound like it was Game 7. That's when Detroit Pistons GM Jack McCloskey noticed him. McCloskey wasn't looking for highlight reel dunks. He wanted toughness, grit, and players who would sacrifice everything to win. So at the 1982 trade deadline, he brought Laimbeer to Detroit, and it was a match made in chaos. Laimbeer joined a young Pistons team led by rookie Isaiah Thomas. Together, they would transform Detroit into the most hated dynasty in basketball history. In his first full season in Detroit, Laimbeer averaged 14 points and 12 rebounds. He made his first All-Star appearance, proving he wasn't just a goon, he could play. Unlike most centers, Laimbeer didn't rely on flashy post moves or raw athleticism. He wasn't fast, he couldn't jump, but he was strong, disciplined, and smart. He mastered positioning. He boxed out better than anyone in the league. And he became one of the first centers to step out and hit long jumpers, eventually extending his range all the way to the three-point line. He was also deadly at the free throw stripe, shooting better than Michael Jordan in some seasons. But all of that was overshadowed by what fans saw most: the elbows, the hard fouls, the constant trash talk. Laimbeer himself admitted it. "I don't fight, I agitate, then I walk away." By the mid-1980s, Laimbeer had become public enemy number one. Fights were a weekly occurrence. Celtics legend Robert Parrish punched him in the face during a playoff game. Larry Bird tackled him to the ground after a hard foul. Other stars admitted they hated even being near him, but Laimbeer didn't care. Every time an opponent lost their cool and threw a punch, he smiled inside. Because while they were getting ejected, he was staying in the game, helping his team win. Isaiah Thomas once said, "Bill figured out these guys weren't as tough as he thought they were. And once he realized that, he knew he could get under anyone's skin." Everything changed when Chuck Daly became Detroit's head coach in 1983. Under Daly, the Pistons developed a new identity: defensive intensity, mental warfare, and relentless physicality. They didn't just want to beat you, they wanted to break you. And at the center of it all was Bill Laimbeer. Paired with Rick Mahorn, he formed one of the most intimidating front courts ever. Add in Dennis Rodman, John Sally, and a fiery backcourt of Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, and the Pistons became the Bad Boys. Their strategy was simple: make every inch of the court painful. Hand checks, forearm shoves, elbows to the ribs, undercutting shooters. They weren't the most skilled team, but they were the toughest. And Laimbeer was the face of that toughness. Detroit fans loved it. Everyone else hated it. By 1988, the Pistons had clawed their way into the NBA Finals against the mighty Los Angeles Lakers. And, for a moment, it looked like the Bad Boys were about to shock the world. They held a 3-2 series lead, but then disaster struck. In Game 6, Isaiah Thomas sprained his ankle so badly he could barely stand. Yet on one leg, he delivered one of the most heroic performances in finals history, scoring 25 points in the third quarter alone. With seconds left, Detroit led by 1. The Lakers went to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem went up for his legendary skyhook. Laimbeer barely touched him, yet the refs called a foul. A phantom foul that still haunts Pistons fans to this day. Kareem sank the free throws. The Lakers won. Detroit's dream season ended in heartbreak, but Laimbeer and the Pistons weren't going away. They were just getting started. In 1989, the Bad Boys finally broke through. They bulldozed through the Eastern Conference, using their infamous Jordan rules to shut down Michael Jordan. Their defense was brutal: double teams, traps, and hard fouls every time Jordan dared to drive. Then, in the finals, fate smiled on them. Magic Johnson pulled a hamstring, Byron Scott was injured, and Kareem was 41 years old. The Pistons smelled blood. They swept the Lakers in 4 games and became NBA champions for the first time in franchise history. Laimbeer celebrated like a man who had just proven the world wrong. They called him dirty, they called him a thug, but now they had to call him something else: a champion. The following year, 1990, the Pistons proved it wasn't a fluke. They returned to the finals against Clyde Drexler's Portland Trail Blazers. Nearly every game was close, but Detroit's toughness once again prevailed. Laimbeer was everywhere, drawing charges, setting illegal screens, flopping at the perfect time. He frustrated Portland's big men so much that they completely lost their composure. By Game 5, Detroit closed the series out, winning back-to-back championships. At this point, the Bad Boys were on top of the world, and Laimbeer was at the center of it all, the man everyone hated but couldn't stop. If you made a list of Laimbeer's enemies, it would stretch longer than most players' highlight reels. Larry Bird despised him. Robert Parrish punched him. Charles Barkley once said he hated Laimbeer more than anyone else in basketball. Michael Jordan couldn't stand the cheap shots and endless trash talk, and the hatred was mutual. Laimbeer never tried to make friends outside of Detroit. To him, basketball wasn't about being liked, it was about winning. That's why the infamous 1991 walk-off happened. When the Bulls finally swept the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, Detroit players, including Laimbeer, refused to shake hands. They walked off the court in silence, sending a final message: "We don't respect you." The decision was hated across the league, but Laimbeer didn't care. In his mind, villains don't need approval. By the early 1990s, the Bad Boys' reign was ending. The Bulls were rising, and the Pistons were wearing down. Laimbeer's numbers declined, though he remained a deadly outside shooter for a center. But the real breaking point came in 1994. During a practice, Laimbeer fouled Isaiah Thomas hard, twice. Thomas snapped, punched Laimbeer, and broke his hand. For two best friends and longtime teammates, it was a shocking moment. Shortly afterward, Laimbeer decided to retire. He was 36 years old with 2 championships, 4 All-Star selections, and over 10,000 points and 10,000 rebounds to his name. So was Bill Laimbeer truly the dirtiest player in NBA history? It depends on who you ask. Karl Malone once said if he had to play like Laimbeer, he'd quit the NBA. Clyde Drexler called him a cheap shot artist. Charles Barkley openly admitted he wanted to fight him every time they shared the floor, but others saw something different. Kurt Rambis said, "I respect the guy. He'll do anything to win, whether it's flopping to get a call or agitating someone to throw them off their game." And Laimbeer himself? He never denied it. He owned it. "We're in the entertainment business," he said. "If they want great plays, they look for Isaiah. If they want steady plays, they look for Joe Dumars. If they want comic relief, they look for me." Bill Laimbeer was never the most talented, never the most athletic, and never the most popular. But he didn't care. He played every game like his life depended on it, and he made sure his opponents hated every second of it. He was the perfect villain, the heel in basketball's golden era. Crowds loved to hate him, and that hatred filled arenas. So was he the dirtiest? Probably. But he was also one of the smartest, toughest, and most effective players of his generation. And no matter what fans or rivals thought of him, Bill Laimbeer left the game with what he wanted most: respect from his teammates, 2 championship rings, and a legacy that will never be forgotten. Because love him or hate him, Bill Laimbeer proved one thing: villains win too.